Welcome to a little bit of Common Crazy. Today I'm excited because I took a piece of furniture that I found on the side of the road, I flipped it, and I was able to create 3 pieces that anyone would be proud to display in their home. Hi and welcome. If you are new, my name is Jennifer and I love doing easy DIYs and budget decor. If that sounds good to you, I hope that you will hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my future videos. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and let's get right on into it. So here is the original piece. I found this when I was taking my kids to school. It has a veneer top and plywood all the way around the sides. So I'm starting with the drawers, and I wanted to remove the front of the drawers to create trays. I started with a mallet, and even my husband thought that that would be the best way to do it. You guys, it didn't work, so I had to get a little bit crafty. First, I had to go ahead and remove that little metal bar on the very bottom. It's just stapled in, so I just used my screwdriver to pop those staples straight out, and it came off super easy. After that, I just stepped into my drawer. This is what you call putting your weight into it. And then in order to get the sides off, again, I just went ahead and just stepped right onto the door or the drawer itself and just wiggled back and forth like you see here. It was just stapled and glued in. After I got both of the sides off, I went back in with my screwdriver and some pliers, and I just pulled the staples out and then just kind of scraped out any of the debris that was on the bottom. Just because I just didn't want it there, even though the bottom of the tray you wouldn't really see, I just really wanted it to be cleaned out. Now for the holes that were left behind from the pulls, I just went in with some wood filler, filled them in. Once it dried, I sanded those down, and now it is ready to be painted. So for the very first one, I chose to go in with Waverly's chalk paint and ink. Now, I mainly use Waverly's chalk paint, but I did just make an order for some DIY paint. It is a clay-based chalk paint, and I am super excited to give it a go. So what I love about this chalk paint, or any chalk paint that I've ever used for that matter, is that it's super thick and super pigmented, and so you don't really need to do like multiple coats. So I really went in with just one coat, and then in a few spots I went ahead and I did a second coat, but not really having to coat the entire thing. After it had completely dried, and I did this outside on a sunny day, so it dried super fast, I went ahead and I sanded on the edges and the high spots to just give that extra distressing look, and then I was able to wax it. Now, some of you might want to leave it alone and leave it at this stage, but I chose to go in with a white wax, and as you can see, the wax has this like frosting texture to it. Now, Waverly does have its own wax, and it is a liquid, and I'm not a huge fan of it for this technique, I should say. I use the antique wax all the time, but I use it differently than this. Anyway, so I just go on, I rub it on, and then I wipe it off. And as you can see, it lightens it up and makes it more of a gray tone, but then the white gets into the little itty bitty bits, and I love that. You can also get wax in like a dark color. Some companies will carry a wax like in a black. You can get like black waxes, you can get like clear wax. So don't feel like you have to just do a white wax. That is not your only option. To really make this look like a tray, I'm using some pulls from Home Depot to create some handles. These only cost $1.58. I always like to have them on hand. Of course, there is a wide variety of a selection if you would like to get something else. And they do come with the screws, and so I just take my screwdriver and I screw them right in. I'm eyeballing it, but of course you could always measure it if you want to. Seriously, could not be any easier. I did the same thing with the other drawer, but this time I used the Waverly chalk paint in white instead. So I went in with a nice coat of that Waverly chalk paint, and any areas that I thought needed a second coat, I gave it that second coat. Once it completely dried, I went ahead and I sanded the high spots and the edges. After that, I went in with the wax, gave it a good waxing. Again, the white wax didn't really matter in this case. I could easily have used a clear wax instead, but I used what I had. And then I added the exact same pulls that I used before, and I have a second tray. Now, if you enjoy thrift flips, trash to treasure, make sure that you also go and check out Megan from Glue Guns and Roses. She is redoing her craft room, and she has a fantastic video that she's putting up right now showing you some items that she flipped that she also found in the trash. Now this part was so much fun for me to do. I wanted to remove all of that particle board. It was one, kind of in rough shape, but two, it was some nasty stuff. So on the backing, it was just stapled in, and so I was just popping that off using my screwdriver, and then I was able to just kind of pry it off of the sides. Then in order to get it off of the bottom, I had to go ahead and remove that little, or remove the screws to get the drawer wooden parts out. I don't even know what you call those. And then I could just pull it right out. So basically I gutted this piece. So once I had it down to its bones, I did go in and sand because it is a little bit rough in some spots and I wanted to smooth it out, as well as it is a veneer on top and I wanted to make sure that I sanded that top just to give it that extra assurance that when I painted it, that paint would stick. I also needed to do any repairs and I only saw one area that needed some wood glue, so I went ahead and I added that, maybe a little bit more than needed, and then I put on a wood clamp just until it dried. So for the flooring, I decided to go in with some scrap wood I have. This is actually some pallet wood, so absolutely free, that's my favorite, but it's a really hard wood as well. And so after we got that all laid down, in order to secure it, I went in with my nail gun and I just put one nail on the front side and on the back side because they were so tight in there anyway. That was all that it needed. I was really lucky because this day my husband was sweet enough, he was helping me out. He was cutting the B-board that I was using to replace the particle board that went on the back and the sides. Now the other option that I could have used was to use the previous particle board and cover it up with like some pill and stick wallpaper. That could have been a really pretty option as well. As you can see, I'm just using my stapler here in order to attach that onto the back. But my best advice is to make sure that you have a second pair of hands that are helping you hold it on. I definitely can never seem to do this without someone helping me hold it. I am not that, let's say, talented. Now this piece is completely built out and ready to be painted. It definitely needs some paint, but it is looking so much better than where it started. Because I chose to use pallet wood, I do have a ton of nail holes, so I'm going to go ahead and fill those in with some wood filler, let that dry, and then sand those down. After that, it's 100% ready to be painted. So I'm painting it with Waverly's chalk paint and ink. It is super black and super thick. I did see a video a while back where someone compared Waverly's chalk paint, the white, with Annie Sloan's white, and they were really pleasantly surprised to see how well Waverly's chalk paint compared to Annie Sloan's. And so if you have never tried Waverly's chalk paint, I suggest that you give it a go and you see how well you like it too. I don't know about you, but I always like to start in the most awkward places first and get those done. And then once I have those done, and then I can move on to the less awkward places. So I did one solid coat everywhere and just kind of got the paint where I needed. Now I like to just get my paint on and then I kind of touch it up and finish it up as I go, kind of smoothing it out, making sure I don't have too much paint in one area. But as you can see, I kind of just dump it on the top, getting the paint on, slapping it on. Once I've slapped that paint all over the top and however it looks, I then go on and I kind of just take my brush and long strokes, making sure that I don't have too much paint in one area and making it look a lot better than it did originally. Once the piece is completely painted with the big brush, I go in with my tiny brush to hit these little areas that you can still see that my big brush was not able to get into. So I go back and I get all of those with my smaller brush, a little bit more detailed. That I went in with my 220 grit sandpaper and I sanded around the corners and the edges or any of those high spots that tend to really get contact with people just over time. Let's be honest, sometimes when a piece is just already distressed, you are a little bit less stressed about it as a mom. So it's nice to have, that's why I think this trend is just still so popular, is it helps parents relax when you have children. Once it was completely sanded, distressed, I went ahead and took a dry cloth and I just wiped off any of the sanding bits, debris, whatever you want to call it, just to get all those little bits and pieces off. And then it was time to wax it. Now, this is the part where you guys might have wanted to keep it as is. You might like this deep, dark, black. You might have liked it before I even sanded it. You might not want to distress it at all. I get it. Please do not roast me in the comments if you do not like the stages that I take. You leave it where you want it. I'll take it where I want it. That is what makes this so much fun. I am using this Bear Wax. I just pick it up at Home Depot, but I know other brands make something really similar. So you're just gonna wipe on the wax, or brush on the wax, I should say. And once you get it all brushed on, then you're gonna go ahead and start wiping it off. And I would suggest that you actually work in smaller areas than I'm working. I think I worked in a little bit too large of an area, and you really have to kind of wipe off that extra wax. Now, can you see how red my face is right there? Yep, this actually was a workout. I was a little bit tired in the arms after having to wipe off all of that wax. So you use the wax for two purposes. One, it adds dimension to your piece, and two, it will seal your piece. So for the dimension, it is really beautiful and adds some great contrast, and you can actually use different colors of wax to do that, and I will be showing that in some future videos, so make sure that you are subscribed so you can see what it's like if you use two different colors of wax. It also seals your piece, so if you don't want to use a wax, make sure that you are at least using some form of a sealer, because you definitely want to protect your piece. I absolutely love this piece. I think it is so versatile. It makes a beautiful coffee table, but it's super cute at the end of the bed too. However, I'm giving it to a friend who will be using it as a bench in her mudroom. If you enjoyed today's video, here's a couple other flips that I think you would enjoy as well, so check out those videos. Don't forget to give today's video a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.